I'm super excited to show you the tips that I have to creating amazing outlines in Procreate. To show you effectively, I'm going to be using a piece of art I created a little while ago. It's this piece here. I don't really have a name for this. Skull and snake sounds pretty good to me. But if we zoom in a little bit closer, we're going to see that this was created with a pencil in Procreate. This is definitely not going to be ideal if I want to do something with this artwork in the future, like maybe create prints, create a t-shirt, stickers, whatever that's going to be. I obviously could keep it as a pencil sketch, but I want to have it really nice and polished. The best way to make it look polished and finished is to have a nice, strong outline. Let's have a look at that. We're going to do a couple of things first. We're going to jump into our layers panel in the top right here, and we're going to see that we have one layer there. We're going to tap on it, and we're going to rename it Sketch. Now what we want to do is we want to create a layer over the top, because we definitely don't want to do our outlines on this layer here, because eventually I'm going to get rid of this layer, this sketch layer. So what I want to do, we're going to tap on the little plus icon in the top right, and we're going to have another layer over the top. We're going to tap where it says layer 2, tap on rename, and we're going to call this outline. Next step, and one of the most important parts, is choosing the brush we're going to use. Let's minimize our layers panel. Let's tap on our brush library. Now, this is really going to be up to you about exactly which one you want to use, but I'm going to show you how I like to do it with a very specific brush that I use for all of my outlines. That brush can be found under the inking category, and it is the Studio Pen. But for now, we're going to minimize that brush library by tapping back on the brush, and we're actually going to go back to our layers for a second. If we open up that layers panel, you're going to see checkboxes on the right-hand side here of each of these layers. If I turn those on and off, the layer itself is going to turn on and off, as you can see with the sketch one there. But next to that checkbox, we have a tiny little N. Let's tap on the N on the sketch layer. This one right here, I'm going to tap on that N, and I get a couple of options below it. We only need to focus on one of these at the moment, and that's where it says opacity. There's a little slider below it. At the moment, it's set to max. We're actually going to bring this down to maybe 25%. Now, what that's done is it's reduced the opacity of the sketch layer. And now when we draw over the top of it, when we're on that outline layer, we're actually going to be able to see what we're working on. This is going to be really important if your sketch layer or whatever you're outlining over the top of is already really dark and you do want to outline it in black. It's going to be able to give you a bit of contrast between the two layers. Now what we have to do is obviously make sure outline is selected here. We're going to tap back on our layer squares there. It's going to minimize the layer panel, and we're almost ready to outline. Let's jump back into our brush panel here. And where we have Studio Pen selected, we're actually going to tap on that again. This is going to open up the Brush Studio. Now, we're not going to go into this too much today. If you do want to know all about this, hit the link at the top of the screen. I made a video all about this on its own, so have a watch of that one. But for now, we're going to focus on a few key areas of these brush properties. On the very left-hand side of the screen here, we have all these different categories of what we can change. Don't stress too much. The main one we want to go to is stabilization, the second one down on the list. And this is going to be really, really important because we're going to be able to stabilize our brushes for when we do use them. When we tap on stabilization, we have a few options in the middle section here, and then we have a little drawing pad on the right. If I go ahead and draw on the drawing pad, it's going to give me a bit of an insight into how that brush is going to interact. And as I make changes in the Brush Studio, I'm going to be able to test it out here before I go into my artwork. The one we want to focus on here is the amount of streamline. As you can see at the top, the first category is titled Streamline. Streamline is going to help smooth out any bumps we have in our line work. At the moment, I'm going to suggest keeping this on about 50%. It's a good way to explore using this technique. And then below it, we have stabilization. Now, this is going to be a really important area as well. Let me go ahead and clear my drawing pad. Stabilization is going to be very similar to Streamline. It's going to help stabilize my brushstroke as I move through my artwork. I like to have my stabilization on about 25%. Let's go ahead and clear that drawing pad and then see what our lines are starting to look like. Really, really nice. It's not perfect by any means, but I'm not looking for it to be absolutely perfect. If I was, again, I could bring up that stabilization, or I could bring up that streamline if I wanted, but at the moment, I'm really, really happy with this. So play around with these two areas right here, and this is how we're going to get the optimal outlines for our design. All right, let's hit done in the top right-hand corner, tap on our brush to minimize the brush library, and then we can just start going ahead and outlining this piece. Now, what I would suggest to get the most effective outlines in your design is to do your outline by sections. So if I have a look at this, I have a big skull in the middle, I have a snake, I have a few flowers around it, I have my logo in the corner, and then I have a border around the outside. I would go ahead and start doing all of these individually. It's really going to help you keep a track of the look that you want for each of these, and it's going to help you to create a better overall aesthetic for your design. My next step for really great outlines in Procreate is to tap on our actions or wrench icon on the top left-hand corner. We're going to go to Canvas, and we're going to turn on Reference. Now, when we have our reference box appear here, there's a little handle at the top. I can press my finger on that and move it around. I'm going to move it to the top left-hand side of the screen. And then I'm going to zoom in on my artwork. Now with the reference image here, I have a few options down the bottom, but I actually want to leave it selected on canvas there because it's going to be a lifetime reference of whatever I do in this design. I'm going to be able to see it on that. I'll give you an example. Let's start with the nose here in the middle and watch what happens when I start doing my outline here. As you can see, I not only made my outline on the right here, but I was able to see it live time happening on the left. This is going to be great. This is going to allow you to zoom in and work on really detailed parts of your design, create really effective outlines, but also have the overall view and aesthetic of your design on the left there. From here, I can keep going, creating a really nice outline and keeping an overall view of it on the left. All right, this would be a good place to stop and talk about exactly why I use this brush when it comes to my style of art. I'm going to have a look at these lines that are coming down above the teeth. There are these little sections here which are tapered lines. Now I could have chosen another brush which has a single width throughout, but then I would have to get back in with a razor after that and try to erase parts of it to get it down to a point, or I could use a taper brush like this to create the effect I want. Now the way this brush works is when I press down the hardest, it's going to be the thickest part of the brush, but if I do alter my pressure and start softer and press harder and maybe end softer, I can create a tapered line. Let's have a look. Awesome, as you can see, that turned out really great. I was able to get in really fast and effectively create these tapered lines. I didn't have to mess around with erasing any parts of lines. It was super simple. It might take you a little bit to get used to this, but promise me stick with it because using tapered lines like this can really add to a design and really create some really cool line widths and allow you to move much faster throughout your artwork when you're outlining. And the last thing I want to talk about is when you do start to attack longer lines in your artwork, the benefit of being able to zoom in and out, but also having the reference layer there and seeing what you're doing can be really, really effective. I'll show you what I mean. I want to work on this line that comes all the way down. It's kind of like this cheekbone area of the face, and it's going to come down and finish down here into a taper. So it starts in a taper, finishes in a taper. I want to make sure the section that I want to outline is easily accessible across one area there so I can do it in one stroke. And then I'm going to go ahead and try and create that line, keeping in mind that I've got streamline and stabilization turned on a little bit, which will definitely help. And again, the beauty of digital art is you can always jump in and try again if you don't perfect the line the way you want it to. Let's give it a go. Cool, that turned out really, really well. Got it first time. I even added a few of the little accents there as well, some of the little sections of the bone which might have cracked off. But this turned out really, really nice. And these are some of the tips that I think if you use when it comes to outlining, you're going to create some amazing pieces in Procreate. Promise me you'll give these tips a go. They really will help you when it comes to outlining in Procreate. And to encourage you even more, I've left a link to this artwork down below in the description so you can download this piece, you can get into Procreate and try it on the exact same artwork that I showed you in this video. Also, if you want to go ahead and color this piece and link me to it on social media, please do. Just use the hashtag #RocketDesign and I'll find it. And let me know in the comments because I'd love to see what you can create with this piece of art. And I really do hope that you get out there and give these tips a go when it comes to outlining because they really do help create an effective, strong outline in Procreate, and these will change your art moving forward.